I wasn't to the point where I was going to lose a toe, but my doctor gave me the diagnosis of diabetes, and Richard had cheated death and bragged about it on Facebook. And I said, I want some of that. But the real thing is, reach of the internet is what it's really all about. As a technologist, I could do classes, making a lot of money, teaching 20 people at a time. But how much reach do you have that way? You know, where you can...
Well, it has a flow-on effect, but nothing like what we can achieve now.
Yeah.
And certainly my learning has come because of the internet and social media and the networking. You know, like with Tim Noakes and Tim inviting me across to Cape Town a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Not only was it an honour, it was a learning experience. And this meeting we're doing here in Breckenridge is, I mean, I know all the speakers, and some I haven't met before. But there hasn't been a lecture that I haven't learned something. You know, and supposedly I've got an understanding of this, but I'm still learning, and we all are. But I mean, when you go to a surgeon, that is a crisis point for a patient. So it's a really good point, timing-wise, for me to be potentially intervening in their overall care. And I don't like just being a surgeon. I mean, one of the things I much prefer doing is actually thinking, what can we do to give you the tools to make yourself better? And I mean, my history, 25 years ago, I wouldn't operate on smokers if you came along for elective surgery, and everyone said I was a redneck. But I said, look, here's the science. The early science is here. And I'm one of the first surgeons in Australia to not operate on people if they're too heavy, but rather than tell them to go away, lose weight, which is a standard thing. That's where part of my understanding has come in. Where is the role of low-carb, healthy fat living? And it started off with sugar and then the oils and then the carbs over time. And then that's really empowered my patients to do something with that. But I don't want to be giving individual advice. I mean, I talk with my arms going and big picture stuff. And then we opened up Nutrition for Life, where we had dietitians, or we have dietitians, and a diabetes nurse educator who do all that individual stuff, because that's beyond the scope of my day-to-day practice. I'm going to say, hey, look, you know, you've got diabetes, you're out of control, you're carrying too much weight, you've got an arthritic knee, you need an operation. I think the concept of low carbs here for you. It's based on, you know, good science, and the CSIRO of now, you know, adopting it and coming out publicly about it. How about you go along and see some dietitians who are, and as a result, you know, part of all that is I've gotten myself into trouble with all sorts of things.
So that opens up a big can of worms. For those who don't know, we did a show talking about Gary. We did. It was called Mad as Hell. And we told your
mad,
story.
but I can tell you how mad I was. I still am, actually.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you were told you can't do that. You can't tell people to do heal themselves with nutrition. You're not qualified to do that.
I do not have the medical qualification to advise people on nutrition.
And essentially what you're saying is you can't tell, what they're saying is you can't tell people not to eat sugar.
Well, I've been reported a couple of times, and each time it's been by a dietitian. There's never been a case of patient harm. There hasn't been a patient complaint. There hasn't been a doctor complaint. There's none of that. And I've kept saying, look, where is the case of patient harm? And so this investigation got underway, and I wrote in, and Tim Noakes, his hearing has been very public. Mine's been behind closed doors. And part of the criticism, and it continued to flow on into a Senate inquiry and full investigation, is that if you're under investigation by the medical board in Australia, you have no advocate, you have no ability to respond to what's actually happening behind closed doors. So you're pretty well, you don't know what's happening.
Do you even get to see the proceedings?
No, and the things which are sent on to you, the wording's changed, it's interpreted by one person. And I mean, I've got documents where they've written one thing and then they've supplied me with the original, and it's completely separate wording and with a different nuance.
Yeah, somebody's interpretation just happened to, the person who happened to communicate it to you.
Look, I haven't been an angel. I have poked the system. I mean, because we have to look at change. We can't wait for the system to change. There's so many, diabetes is out of control, obesity is out of control. And, if you don't let people know that there's another option out there. I mean, so many people have tried every diet underneath the sun, and all we're talking about now is here eating real food.
Right.
Indeed.
And the science of eating real food is that it is low in sugar.
Yeah.
It is not processed, and it's not made up with unhealthy processed oils.
Right.
And you should eat fresh, local and seasonal.
It's remarkable to me that a doctor can say something like that and all of the dietitians in the world would be arrayed against you. I mean, it begs belief.
It's unbelievable.
Because it's been given a label, low-carb, healthy fat,
Sure.
people go, oh, that's a fad diet. And I say, no, that's a description of eating real food, which is fresh, local and seasonal.
And the reality is the standard diet, the Western diet, is the fad diet. The carbohydrate, the processed food, that's the fad.
Yeah, we've been eating this fad diet for 40 years. And, you know, I talk about the food pyramid as it's sort of standing or variations of it. And I say, look, if you're going to eat by the food pyramid and live by the food pyramid, then you're going to die by the food pyramid. And along the way, you're going to look like the food pyramid. But that's true.
Yeah.
And I used to do that. So my own health journey, I was a fat kid. I was raised on sugar, carbs, refined carbs and polyunsaturated oils, the margarine, all of that.
I remember my grandmother used to give us white bread smeared with margarine and white sugar with the crusts cut off.
Yeah, and hundreds of thousands.
And hundreds of thousands. And
Wait. What's hundreds of thousands?
Brightly coloured sprinkles.
Sprinkles. And my mother says to me that my grandmother did this, and she was my first grandparent to pass away, and so I don't remember her that well. But my mother says that was how she showed love.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because these were in her era, these were very refined and very elegant foods. And of course, now white bread, margarine, and white sugar are trash. You know.
But I mean, that's, you know, we talk about this. You know, I understand now roughly how food drives behaviour, the chemistry, but then you've also got how it's marketed, and then you've got a whole culture of, you know, you can't go to a party now without having a cake.
Sure.
And so, you know, that's part of this whole thing about changing lifestyles. And when people say, oh, it's a diet, I'm going, no, we've got to look at the whole thing. Right. You've got to learn about how the food's going to drive behaviour. You've got to understand that when you go to a party, when some people shoving you something underneath you know, you need to be able to say no.
You can say no, yeah.
You learn how to say no.
Tell your kids to say no to drugs too. I mean, but it's the same idea.
And then when you go to the shops, you know, actually understand that, you know, that brightly coloured package is there to draw your eye.
Yeah.
So you're going to pick it up and buy it. You know, talking about reading labels. So it's all about learning the tools of actually eating real food, which is not that simple.
So what is the status of your, what do you call it? A censure? What did they do exactly?
So it started off as a complaint put in by a dietitian.
Right.
And then the investigation went on for 2.5 years. And then there was another complaint put in where I was accused of inappropriately, effectively reversing someone's type 2 diabetes.
How inappropriate of you.
You've got to be kidding.
Yeah.
And,
wait a minute. But is that the actual word on the complaint? Inappropriately curing diabetes?
I think inappropriately claimed to have reversed someone's type 2 diabetes.
Oh.
Okay.
And we did it on national TV. Okay. And yes, we did. And I actually didn't do it. I mentored him. Yeah. But the team of dietitians and the diabetes nurse educator, they did all the work. But it was inappropriately for me to claim it. Not that I ever really did claim it. I mean, I just happened to be on TV with him.
And you said, hey, this is what the blood sugar is. This is what the A1C is. Diabetes is a measure of A1C.
You've no longer got diabetes.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And then in the same complaint, I was reported for what I was going to say at a hospital food industry meeting, a national one that I was invited to speak at.
So you were convicted for a thought crime?
Well,
1984.
That's the concern. You know, and obviously I've challenged that, and APRA still won't reply to that portion of it, even though they actually asked me for a copy of my speech before I gave it.
Incredible.
Well, and I said no.
Yeah.
Because you know what's happened if the system's actually censoring you to that point in time. So anyway, the process has gone on. I've effectively put in a thesis of information about, and ultimately they came back a really, really badly worded document. And I've had legal opinion about that as well. It's not just my opinion. But it's ultimately said what I'm talking about might be right. And even if it's shown to be best practice, I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Insane.
Are you breaking the law right here, right
yes,
now?
I suspect
Yes?
so. But, I mean, this hasn't been tested.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here in the United States.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you're corrupting an Australian. So.
Well, if you're listening in Australia, don't listen, please.
No, please don't.
But it said that effectively, it has said that my qualifications as an orthopaedic surgeon do not allow me to speak out about nutrition, either to my patients or to the community at large. And particularly about diabetes.
Right. Which is...
But I've got a third of my patients.
Yeah.
And every operating list in the public hospital has a patient with diabetes, which is poorly controlled.
Perfectly okay for you to chop their feet off.
But yet I can talk about, I've got all this knowledge now where I know that every single complication of diabetes is preventable.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we've been hearing about how it's reversible,
yeah.
but the complications of diabetes are avoidable.
Yeah.
That's it. And once you see the results of low carb in the management of diabetes and a whole range of other health things, you can't unsee them. It's something we talk about. So, we sort of say, hashtag we can't wait, but we can't wait to keep going, the way we are. And it's just not financially viable as a society. And it's certainly not independently viable for the person who I need to see there in my office.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely. That's one of the reasons we started the podcast in the first place, and we built the forums that we did, was to try and build a groundswell of type 2 diabetics, understanding a little bit about their process, working out how to fix themselves, and then taking it to their loved ones and their friends and family. And if everybody does that, if everybody takes responsible for 2 other people, then this thing can grow exponentially.
The thing is, we didn't invent it.
We didn't.
We don't have the only community. We're just tapping into the people that are already doing it. We know thousands of people, or we know of thousands of people who've done exactly what we've done. Yeah. The same exact way and have the same exact results.
My story is about me as well. I mean, I was a fat kid. As it turned out, I was pre-diabetic. I had my own cancer story.
You had brain cancer, didn't you?
A pituitary tumour.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So it's on the base of the brain.
Okay.
And I needed to have surgery and chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and I needed a second lot of surgery. And since I've actually gone hardcore at this, the thing stopped. Yeah. So that's why I've got an interest in cancer and the whole metabolism of it. Yeah. So I've never said that nutrition will cure cancer.
Right.
But it's a great adjunct.
Yeah.
To chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, the traditional.
It's a good way to stress it and to push it while you try other
There's so much information out there, and we've just heard 2 lectures today from, an oncologist and a general physician talking about the potential role and the role where it is actually in cancer management. And I gave a talk on this a couple of years ago. I got hammered for that one as well because orthopaedic surgeons shouldn't be talking about cancer. Well, I've got cancer. A whole lot of my patients have got cancer. Again, I'm looking for tools that they may want to utilise. And I've never said cure. And these are things that I've been accused of, saying, I know exactly what I've said, and I know exactly what we've done on social media. And I'm not stupid, and we're quite careful about it. But then to get accused of stuff, and then there's a whole lot of things of what people think that I've said versus what I have said. And this is all the trouble with hearsay, rumour, innuendo. But again, sure, I've copped a bit of a hammering in the last several months, but there have been more people now aware of, well, what's he being hammered about? Yeah.
And a lot of us are willing to stand up and say no more. I mean, this is just, it's incredible the bastardry of some of the acts that you've had to put up with. I mean, people abusing your locker at work and things like that were just, I mean, I heard about those.
Does Dr. Oz have these problems? Doesn't he like have a different theory of everything every week? And he can say whatever he wants. Maybe you should just get a TV show.
No. I'm quite happy trying to pull my head down. I mean, my first medical degree is MBBS, and I've questioned it. You know, since when does getting a second or a third degree nullify your first degree? But I mean, I've used this common sense logic. Yet we've got a system in Australia which is getting reviewed at the moment, you know, in a Senate inquiry. Whether or not anything will come of that is yet to be decided. But it's a bit like low carb. This is no longer about me. You know, it's never been about me. Low carb healthy fat has been about getting a message out there. And what this process of what's happened to me by the medical board and what we call APRA in Australia has shone a light into the fact that the system's not working. And it's you know, I'll be careful, and I'll say I respect the police and I respect the common law, because that's something that's evolved over hundreds of years. What I can't respect is a system that can actually allow you to not a process which is actually just failing. And it's not failing for me. I've now become aware of hundreds of stories which doctors, dentists, nurses,
even dietitians.
No, they're not under
like
the
Jennifer
umbrella.
Elliott.
Well, yeah, but dietitians aren't under the umbrella of APRA.
Oh, of course.
Because APRA have deemed that dietetics doesn't require any supervision. Yes,
it's not dangerous.
It's not dangerous, so therefore I find it incredulous that they're actually ruling upon me giving nutritional advice when they don't have any ability to jurisdict in that vicinity anyway. But then generally it's another story where she's been caught up by her process, by the Dietitians Association.
And who were we talking about?
Jennifer Elliott.
Jennifer Elliott,
yeah.
She's a New South Wales dietitian who's effectively lost her licence.
Right.
To practice. And there's Jennifer's story, and then there's the one of the Dietitians Association that's quite interesting, how they're quite separate. But Jennifer's story has remained consistent, and the Dietitians Association one seems to have changed a bit.
Absolutely.
I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
So there are clearly forces at play that if you upset the cart, nobody's happy with it. And you know, it's happened to Tim Noakes in South Africa. It's happened to Karen Zinn as a dietitian.
Annika Dahlberg in Sweden almost 10 years ago,
But when it's been challenged on the science, it falls over.
Yeah, sure does.
And you know, I suppose my problem is that I started talking about sugar 6-7 years ago. You know, if I came out now as a doctor saying, look, you've got to cut back on your sugar, wouldn't be a problem.
That's right, And the other thing was that in Australia, the process was hidden. It was in a star chamber, whereas Tim Noakes was able to. Tim Noakes was able to prosecute his defence.
I haven't been able to ask a question about the people, you know, of the people that threw in the complaints.
Do you know who they are?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But they were anonymous notifications.
Yeah. But you didn't know for a while too, right?
No. Yeah. But you know, they have an expert witness who we can't cross-examine, and I have said to them, you know, look, actually, I think this is a biased opinion, and you know that person's giving an opinion and advice on my qualifications, yet they've never gone to the Australian Medical Council. They've never gone to the College of Surgeons. They haven't gone to the universities to find out what doctors can and can't talk about.
Yeah.
They've taken an opinion from someone associated with the food industry.
Of course
sorry. And I realise this, but I'm happy to back every single statement that I've said. And that's. I personally think there's a gross miscarriage of justice. However, I'm now aware of the fact that this same process of vexatious notifications, like if you've got it in for someone, then you can put a complaint in, and that person will be tied up for months under investigation. So if you're after a job, let's say you're an anaesthetist, you apply for a job at a hospital, 20 people apply, but I put a complaint in about you, you have to notify the potential employer that you're currently under investigation. And they'll say, "I've got 20 people here. This guy's under investigation. You could be guilty or not guilty."
Yeah.
But you will not get that job
Yeah. Of course.
until it's cleared. And it doesn't happen overnight. This takes months and months.
Do you have any advice? Because you must know a lot of doctors that come to you and say, I know this is the right way to treat patients, but I'm afraid.
And that's I mean, let's say from those people with vested interest who put in the complaint, and then the tactics work, because I'm approached by many doctors, and certainly even before it, who were willing to, starting to come out and, not only help their patients, but refer on accordingly.
Yeah.
Who have then pulled their heads back down again, because they go, actually, I don't want that hassle. I don't want it. I've got a young family. I've got a mortgage. I've got a career. Sure. And we're fortunate enough that our kids have left home. We feel very strongly about it. But then the Nutrition for Life Centre that we opened up, APRA came and said, look, I've got a vested interest in it. And quite clearly, we did mentor it, myself and my wife, Belinda. And, but, we've never made $1 out of it. And I can tell you, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we're down.
Right.
But APRA never did an audit. They just said, you've got a vested interest, an undeclared conflict of interest on social media. As it turns out, I only referred 28 patients out of 1,100 in 2.5 years.
Wow.
Directly referred, because I didn't want to be accused of that. And 88 doctors refer into that centre. So, I mean, it's hardly that I'm the only person doing that. But nonetheless, and we were just about to start an educational program around Australia for training educators, myself, the diabetes nurse educator, and the dietitians, to teach dietitians, doctors. And that whole thing had to be closed down, which is sad, because that was the next step. If we really want to take
education is really
not educating people, but educating the educators.
Right.
We had a dean of medicine signed up to come along to it. I mean, how cool was that? To not that this is cutting edge stuff, which you guys know about. It's not rocket science, though. But we had, we've got a whole set of tools there to teach educators, and this is how you do it. This is This is, the images. This is the stuff you need to actually support people in their journey.
So it's obvious that you have political and monetary influences that are working against you. What about just the...
Well, you can say that, but I can't say it publicly.
I said it. Yeah. I don't care. Take my no money. I don't have any money that you can take, so I said it. But it's clear to me, anyway, that that's what's happening. But what do you think about just the sheer power of sugar addiction that makes people not believe that this is possible? Do you think that there's anything like when you find opposition to a low-carb, healthy fat diet from somebody who is otherwise really intelligent, some part of it has to come from, I could never give up bread, just like the whole, how can you live like that? They can't foresee it.
I think there's a perspective as an individual, and then there's a perspective as a health professional. And it's probably easier to take the health professional one first of all. How did I get it wrong? How on earth did I actually miss this?
Right.
How did my education fail to actually teach me about this?
Right.
And so there is a bit of a denial first of all. And I went through that. One of the early books, not the first one I'd read, was Sweet Poison by David Gillespie.
David Gillespie, yeah.
And I've spoken to David about it since. I tried to prove him wrong. I said, no, this guy's wrong. In the meantime, I'd cut my leg and I couldn't exercise. And I thought, well, whilst I'm trying to prove him wrong, I'll give it a crack, and lost 8 kilos and over 8 weeks. And
without exercising.
Without exercising.
Yeah.
So, I used to be the carb kid. Here's, a little scoop for you. Mm-hmm. I used to be the chocolate cake judge at the hospital. The cake judge at the hospital. And I would not take plasters off children or anyone unless they brought me a chocolate cake.
Wow. Nice.
So I am trying to redeem my sins. Okay?
Yeah, I'll bet.
There you go.
So I tried to prove it wrong. So I went, and we see this with health professionals that first of all they go, no, it can't be right.
Yeah.
And if I tell you you're wrong, your very first response is, no, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right.
So everyone gets a bit defensive. When they start working it out, you can actually see health professionals, they get angry.
Yeah.
And you probably, I don't know if you've seen them on social media, and Belinda and I will go, oh, he's in the angry phase. They're in the angry phase now.
Right.
And then people go, actually, how can I do something? What can I do to help in this process? And I've had many doctors come to me and say, actually, I've gotten that wrong. How do I learn more? And then that's the time you support them.
Yeah.
What happens as an individual?
Yeah.
That's different. That's your own personal story. And I think you get to a point in time, you've had your diabetes, I had my cancer, you take an interest in your health. I talk about financial planning, like we plan for our financial retirement, but it's so rare for people to actually think consciously about their health retirement. And the benefits of planning for your health retirement can be compounded in a good way or in a bad way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And today's a good day to start planning for your health retirement.
Yep.
But I remember if I had heard that 3 years ago, I would have said, yeah, but pizza, man. You know what I mean? It's just such an overwhelming urge. You know that it's not right to eat what you think is a fatty meal, but, really it's the carbohydrates. But people just, they can't. I remember finding it hard to imagine myself in the future where I didn't want to eat sugar and bread. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's just a hard thing to imagine.
This is about education. I mean, once you know about it, then you can start making a choice.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with smokers nowadays. And I was, as I say, first surgeon to not operate on smokers, well, not the first, but a long time ago. But I'm okay if people want to smoke now, because you've now, with all the information that's out there, you've made a conscious decision to be an idiot.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it.
You've made an informed decision to be an idiot.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But if you want to make an informed decision about your eating, and what's good and bad, there's so much confusion out there.
So much garbage.
And so, where do you start?
Yeah.
So if someone is in that state of mind, the great thing now is people are starting to hear about sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar's not that good.
I think that's an easier sell than, sugar is bad is an easier sell than fat is okay. And even fat is beneficial. I think people have a really hard time with that one.
You've got to just wait for that point. And when people become engaged in their health retirement or, whatever, they've got a problem, then you can start. And it is small, very few people can go cold turkey, do the full, what I call the trifecta, because I'm known for, sugar makes you hungry, carbs make you fat, polyunsaturated oils make you inflamed and sick.
Yeah.
But let's cut back on the sugar. You're going to go through withdrawal, switch from margarine to butter. You switch from vegetable oil to olive oil. The Mediterranean oils. There's nothing dangerous about healthy fats. We're not talking. I'm a great believer in not saying high fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Healthy fat, right?
I've heard you say that before, and you say that really it is a matter of eating real food. If somebody just eats real food, they will naturally be eating more fat and less
healthy
carbohydrate.
Fats,
more healthy fats.
Yeah,
yes.
the cheese, the nuts, the avocado, the fish, the Mediterranean oils. I mean, we're not talking about deep fried Mars bars.
No.
It's just
right.
It is just healthy stuff. And when you eat to satiety, you don't overeat because you fill up. I try and use a lot of visual stuff. I know when my new registrar start, one of them will come in with a can of soft drink or fruit juice and whatever. Okay, good. Let's get the same amount of sugar into water that you've got there. Okay, now drink it.
Yeah.
And they can't because it's awful.
Yes,
right.
And there's a whole lot of science about what's been done to that soft drink to actually make it palatable.
Yeah.
That's Damon Gameau's trick, the teaspoons of sugar that he equates all of his foods to sugar cubes, and that's a brilliant visual aid.
And we use a lot of that with education, or we used to wanted to. But,
yes.
But actually getting them to drink it, that's the hard yakka. And the other one is to I'll sometimes use is just plain pasta. You think you like pasta, so we just boil it up without any salt. Just eat pasta, it's boring.
It's not
you know.
nice.
Yeah.
Or, and effectively we're talking about beige. I realise the walls here are beige.
Yeah.
It's not very exciting. So
No.
let's skip all the beige food and go for all the coloured stuff, which gives all the textures.
Well, what do we like best about potatoes? The butter, the sour cream, the bacon, the chives, like all the salt. That's what I like.
It's not the potato.
It's certainly not potato.
Well, pizza's a classic example. I'm the guy that will go along and scrape all the topping off.
Yeah.
And
me
I'll
too.
go, look, it's fine. If you want to eat the pizza bases.
It's the plate. That's
that's
the
what
plate the pizza comes on.
Right.
And, but using visual things like that gives people a bit of an understanding about it.
I know when I was first diagnosed with diabetes, I was given material for training me how to eat now that I was now a type 2 diabetic, which included 304 grams of glucose equivalent per day. And I remember making I basically worked out how many teaspoons of sugar that was. And it's like 76 teaspoons of sugar in a day to somebody who is unable to safely metabolize sugar.
Diabetes is an inability to metabolize the glucose load that your body is presented with.
Yes.
That's it. It doesn't matter if it's type 2, type 1. It is still an inability. You can argue about, the cause of it. So whatever I present you with, you cannot metabolize it. So you're effectively allergic to it.
Yeah.
So if you've got a kid with a nut allergy, would you give them peanuts and then an adrenaline pen?
No.
Right.
It's the dumbest thing. Okay?
That's really great.
So if you've got an allergy to carbohydrate and glucose, I'm not allowed to swear here, am I?
Yeah, you can.
Why would you give it to them?
Wait. Let me get this straight.
Hey, look, you're allergic to carbohydrate. Here, have this carbohydrate and now take this medication to try and handle the load we've just got. But when we give you the insulin, it's going to make you fat.
Yeah.
My doctor's answer was people just want to take a pill. They want to eat their garbage and take a pill. And that's why they don't succeed on,
but this is where the medical practitioners
throw their patients under the bus.
They haven't been educated, but this is not new. This is management of diabetes before insulin. It was the management of diabetes to restrict sugar and carbohydrate as recently as 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And somehow the guidelines and everything has just crept in a wave of apathy from the medical profession, and we can do better. I'm sorry, we can do better.
Absolutely.
But we have to take that responsibility because at the moment, we just tell patients, this is an incurable disease of which you're progressively going to get worse and you're going to be a chronic patient of mine. Thank you very much. We're going to keep prescribing medications and ultimately you're going to get kidney disease, you're going to lose your vision. You're going to get impotent guys. All right.
Yeah, no, that's true.
That's all part of the disseminated vascular disease, isn't it?
That's right. It's the first symptom. One of the earliest symptoms of having cardiovascular disease and heart attacks for males is impotence.
Yeah.
And we've got to chase that pathway.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Well, being over here, coming across to Breckenridge and catching up with what I call the extended team's great. We had dinner. You're well aware that Belinda has taken over my social media presence.
Yes.
And she said she's taken it to another height because she's much more skilled. So it's now Belinda Fettke, no fructose. But I'm back on Twitter, and this whole thing is too big. It's too important. What the criticism from APRA was, that I didn't declare my doctor-patient relationship in every social media response.
Same thing they tried to lay on Tim Noakes.
Yeah.
Like
That's
there's
right.
a doctor-patient relationship in a tweet.
But I've said, the doctor-patient relationship has not been defined in media, either print media, electronic, visual, social. And we've had liaison with the AMA. It's not under the national law. The Medical Council haven't ruled on it. So here we are, the law's being made up as it's going along.
Yeah.
And in a tweet, you don't have the ability to, exclude everything. But every single personal patient, every patient I know is, and I've got a stamp that I put in the notes, essentially declaring, conflict of interest. But as it's turned out, we've never made a cent out of it. We never will. And, it's something run independently from us. And it's the team doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking out. I'm testing the boundaries.
Yeah.
because, no one's defined who's actually going to keep an eye on me.
Yeah.
Right.
No one's defined anything. Have I given you individual medical advice today? I don't think so.
Not yet.
Nothing we haven't already known.
That's right. I mean, I'm just saying, look, you're allergic to carbohydrate. You've told me you've got type 2 diabetes.
Yeah. Right.
You're allergic to carbohydrate. Well, why don't you,
Why don't you try not eating that?
not eating it?
Yeah.
Particularly when you've got a hybrid engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You can either put petrol or diesel in your engines.
Yeah. But your petrol leaks when you fill the tank. So why don't you use gas instead or diesel? Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've got a petrol, I mean, do you ever put a little bit of petrol in your diesel engine? Just a little bit each time? It's, a little bit won't hurt, will it?
Yeah. Moderation, a little petrol in moderation.
Moderately poisoned. I've heard that one today.
And then, is it any surprise now that your engine's in strife?
Right.
So as a health system, we're now spending all of our money servicing the car when we really should just find out it's going to be a hell of a lot more effective if we just paid a bit more attention to what fuel we put
Just
in
a
the
little
tank.
maintenance, yeah.
When do you think we're going to see the tipping point? Is it going to take a revolution? Is it going to take...
No, I don't think so. I talk about committed sardines. Have you heard me talk about this?
No, I haven't. No.
And it's a biological term, and it's related to the fact that a school of fish can turn around 180 degrees like that.
Yeah.
And they can do it, bang. Now, a school of sardines can get to the size of a sperm whale, but a sperm whale to turn 180 degrees takes 3 or 4 minutes, apparently.
Sure.
So at any point in time in this school of fish, the school of sardines, there are some fish that are a bit agitated on the outside, swimming in the opposite direction, a bit more alert to danger and change. And so at a tipping point, they turn the whole school around. And the percentage is about 3%.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
So it's not 30%, it's not 50%. So, you guys talk about the rule of, you do it, tell another 2,
right.
another 2.
Yeah.
That 3% can't be that far away.
Yeah,
now, I was speaking
right.
to Andreas Einfeld about it.
Yeah.
and-
Andreas.
Yes.
Andreas Einfeld.
Einfeld.
Yeah, from
Diet Doctor.
Yeah.
And I was...
Just want to make it clear for
sorry. And if you do Google Trends and you look up LCHF, and on the international map it goes Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, Andres, you've got your 3%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They've essentially flipped the food pyramid.
Yes.
Government has.
If you then do Google Trends and do LCHF and you search Australia, and state by state, Tasmania. So in our community, particularly northern Tasmania, the concept of sugar and carbs is now topical.
Yes.
And you can go to a restaurant and ask for a low-carb meal and not be looked upon like an idiot.
Yeah.
I did a bit of locum work in Queensland last year, just exploring possibilities. You never know what's going to happen.
Sure.
And
I'm a Queenslander, so it's a great place to...
We were in the sugar belt, which was actually a bit... I was hiding in the sugar belt.
From the Apple Isle to the sugar belt.
Yeah, but, nofructose.com was actually hiding in... And there's a great picture of Belinda. She's taken me hiding in a sugar cane. And with all due respect to it, no idea.
Yeah.
It is just a foreign concept, which means I realise how far we still have to go.
Yes.
But in my community, in our community, we think we're making a difference, and we've created market penetration. Have we gotten to 3%? I don't know, but we're not that far away. And so this is what you guys are doing.
It's a bit different than telling people about it. I mean, what we're doing is showing everybody by example what we've done.
Yeah.
And that is the most powerful agent for change.
Yeah.
It has, I've seen it ripple through my friends, for example, personal friends, not just online friends, but personal friends.
Well, except you lead by example by yourself. I have often, a lot of parents used to, when I was on social media, but Belinda will do it now. So what do I do? My children won't do it. Yeah. And do what we do. We lead by example, and the kids go, oh, okay. And they come on board. And around, in the community, you lead by example, and people will say, well, ultimately, they'll go, when the time is ripe, they'll go, tell me about it.
Right.
And then you can start giving them the tools and when they want to. A bit like, when people want to give up smoking, they will give it up when the time's right.
You said at dinner tonight that you're not down on anybody who's, vegan, paleo, whatever, vegisexual, it doesn't really matter. Because they're taking...
Vegisexual.
Yeah, because that's what Bloom County term. because they're taking charge or they're interested in their health, and that's the first step.
I may not agree with the path they're doing, but once people become invested in their health, then I've got a heap of time and empathy for them.
Yeah.
But I'm also known for not being particularly tolerant. So if you're sitting there 100 kilos overweight, completely unmotivated, into the junk food, smoking like a chimney, and you say, "Make me better, doctor," well, you might find my other side.
Yeah.
In a polite, professional sense.
Sure.
But also, once your
I don't
people...
blame you.
But we ultimately, we are all responsible. But if you've given the right tools and the right education, then you can start making those decisions.
Yeah.
Well, I think giving people like that hope is the first step. I mean, because that's, you obviously, if you're in a state like that, you've given up on yourself.
I call it a deep, dark well.
Yeah.
And I talk about some pillars of health. Don't know how we're going for time, but the pillars of health are nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, communication, and genetics. And you can't do much about your genetics.
No.
Right.
Stress, a lot of people got heaps of stress, and I mean, I've got some thoughts about that, but it's hard for people to change stress. Sleep.
Which is a big problem for me. My circadian rhythms are horrible. So
Yeah, I sleep well.
okay. I feel like.
I do now.
Getting the right amount of exercise is,
Right,
is a bit of a trick. Communication, I think we communicate, and podcasting, social media, that whole connectivity is important.
I agree.
Nutrition is one thing that you can actually do something about
Right.
today.
Yeah.
And I say, look, it's like, here's a ladder. I've just dropped a ladder into the deep dark well. You can put one foot on it
Yeah.
and you can take a choice. And with diabetes, that you can actually reverse your diabetes within 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, no, you can start to see a change in your diabetes control within hours.
Oh, sure, just because of the sugar response.
So you can either choice having that huge pizza or having eggs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And letting your liver look after your glucose requirements.
So literally 2 hours later, you've gotten control of your blood glucose. I mean, that's unheard of, isn't it?
Right.
You have the ability to start changing your health outcome within hours and see the result.
There's another difference between the low-carb, healthy fat way of life and any other quote-unquote diet that anyone's ever been on, and that is that, at least for me, every diet that I tried, every attempt that I made to make myself healthier, it seemed to get, it was easy when I had confidence at first, and then it got more and more and more and more difficult. And so I think that people have this thought that when they go on this, if they adapt this healthy way of life, that it's going to get harder and harder. In fact, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's hardest that first day. The second day may be a little bit more difficult because now you're changing habits. But as you go on, don't you agree? It gets easier and easier.
I was that fat kid. I've been on all those fad diets for 20, 30 years. I was always paying attention to what I'm eating. The trouble with diets, and I hate the word diet, but
it's true.
because you will fail on a diet because you think you're restricting yourself. And then when you fail on a diet, you're told that you're a failure.
That's right.
It's
you use
the
word
word fail. Whereas here, this is about empowering people to get back to eating real food, which is fabulous, and they see the benefits, they feel the benefits.
Yeah.
And so for me, as a doctor, this is a fabulous tool. And I've been chatting to doctors here this week about the fact that doctors back at home, where they feel as though they've been practicing bad medicine, they haven't been helping their patients. They're jaded. They're in their 40s to 50s, 60s, and they're just serving time in medicine. And yet now these doctors, David Unwin, he just gave his great story, and he just won that National NHS Innovator Award.
Yeah. What a remarkable speech he gave, really.
But he's got the NHS Innovator of the Year Award for doing exactly the same thing, which I'm getting
panned for.
I've asked David for that award. Can I have a photocopy of it? And but he is excited to go to work. He said, "I want those patients with diabetes to come back that I wanted to get rid of before."
He rescinded his retirement.
Yes,
He was enjoying his life, his life as a
Yeah.
doctor so much.
He said it's fun.
Yeah.
It's just
and
too
that's
much
what
fun.
my life is fun. Apart from all the stuff going on in the background,
Right.
the ability to help people, and particularly beyond my practice,
Yeah.
is awesome.
I can see your motivation, and I
Totally.
mean, it's got to be the motivation for people getting into medicine in the first place, is to help people. And what a horrible thing to be in a situation where you can't. And
I also mentor quite a few young doctors who are stating that. They've gone into medicine to help people. And yet we've got a sick health system. It's not health system is wrong, it's a sick system. And all you're doing is band-aiding people. We just sort of go, here's some more medication. We're servicing the vehicle. We're not getting back to the maintenance. And there's an enormous dropout rate of young doctors now. Belinda was just chatting to someone who we've known since she was in high school, and she's pretty well couldn't continue on in the medical system, and now she's found a role within CrossFit.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
And but she's excited because now she's engaged with people who are really going for it, engaged in their health outcomes, and she's excited again. Many young doctors are disenchanted with where medicine is, and I think it's because it's this band-aid mentality, and as a society we're getting fatter and sicker, and there's this feeling of hopelessness. And what nutrition has given me that enthusiasm to say, hang on, this is something really good, which is worth trying.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? It doesn't cost anything. Give it a go for 8 weeks, 12 weeks. You make your own mind up. And patients, the average person, the person on the street doesn't care about a double-blind controlled study.
No, you're right.
They're interested in what you guys have done. What my friend's done that. They're healthier. I'll give that a crack.
Yeah.
And whether or not they do a little bit or a lot, we're all relative hardcore here, but not everyone has to be hardcore.
Right.
If the majority of the people got back to eating real food, I know that sounds really simple.
It is actually.
Then avoid the sugars, the processed foods, the polyunsaturated oils. If the majority of people just got back to doing that, we'll be so much healthier.
Dr. Ted Naiman told us that he likes to make it really easy for his patients. His diabetic patient says, go eat bacon and eggs for 2 weeks and come back and see me.
But he would have said it a lot quicker than that.
Yeah. Go eat bacon and eggs for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Well,
been able to catch up with Ted. Yeah.
It's been such an honor to have you on our show.
No, Thank you very much.
I feel really humbled by the fact that it's Belinda and I are just doing what we need to do.
Yeah.
We're doing what we call the right thing. I'm not that nice a guy, okay? I'm just,
neither am I. I'm
no,
really
it's
not.
just, but this
I'm
is the
trying hard
right
to
thing
help
to
a lot
do,
of people.
And it's an exciting journey. The kids said, all this stress and whatever. No, it's exciting. It's exciting, to actually truly understand exciting. You would have highs and lows. So, but it's good.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
No, thank you guys.
All right.